verse 22. And here we have the account of Jesus healing a blind man, really in a two-stage miracle, if you will. It's a very interesting miracle, unusual among the miracles that Jesus performs because of the process that he uses to heal this man. But he came to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. So Jesus travels to Bethsaida, Galilee's north shore. It's the hometown of Peter and Andrew and Philip, according to John chapter 1 and verse 44. The word Bethsaida means the house of the fishermen. And there's no doubt that there were fishermen, maybe many fishermen, that lived in this town right close to the shore of the Sea of Galilee. It's interesting that archaeologists have excavated a house of the fishermen right on this location, in which they found lead weights and anchors and needles and fish hooks, a lot of the same things that we would use perhaps even today to fish with. They found in this particular house of the fishermen, which you see a diagram of there on the screen. But anyway, Jesus travels to this place. They bring to him this blind man, and they want him to be healed. So he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of town. And when he'd spit on his eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. Isn't that an interesting approach? Jesus, no doubt, had the power to heal this man any way he would have chosen. But he does a couple of things first. First, he takes the blind man by the hand and leads him out of town. Now, we don't know for sure what he's intending to accomplish there, but two things come to mind right away. And one would be that he's taking the man out of town to get him somewhat away from the crowd. And that may well be the main reason Jesus is doing this. Later on, when he heals the man, he'll tell him not to go back into town or tell what he's done with healing him of his blindness. So it could be that Jesus doesn't want everybody in town around when he heals this blind man. The other thing that I think you have to realize is, here's a man who's blind. He needs somebody to lead him by the hand. And he would have to really trust whoever that is. I mean, you think about being blind. If you're going to allow somebody to lead you by the hand, you don't want somebody who's going to, as a joke, lead you into a ditch or off a cliff, or you want somebody who's responsible and going to take care of you. So this action of leading the man by the hand naturally would develop at least a little bit of trust on the part of the blind man. The blind man can hear all that's going on, but he can't see Jesus. And he learns in this exercise of being led out of town by the hand to some degree trust Jesus as a human being. And then Jesus spat in his eyes, and that's again a really strange thing to do. But the blind man can't see anything. Obviously, he doesn't know, if Jesus would just wave his hand over him. He can't see that. So Jesus is doing something with the tactile senses to create and generate some faith in the blind man. The blind man knows now that Jesus is doing something, and that no doubt would increase his faith at that particular moment. So Jesus asked him if he saw anything, and he looked up and said, "I see men like trees walking." In other words, I see some things out there in the distance like men, but they look more like trees. In other words, sort of maybe fuzzy blobs in the distance of my vision. I can't really see completely. A little bit, but not completely. A lot of people, when we come to Jesus and he begins to help us, he helps us a little bit with something, sin in our lives, a problem that we're having, whatever it might be, and then we're not really all that we want to be. We're not really completely satisfied in our lives, but things are better than they were before. And a lot of people stop this process of Jesus working with them in faith, stop this process before he's all the way finished. You don't want to stop when you're only seeing trees, okay? You want Jesus to be able to finish the work that he's doing in you. And I think there's a bit of a lesson there for us. So Jesus put his hands on his eyes again and made him look up, and he was restored and saw everyone clearly. An amazing miracle, of course. Jesus heals a number of blind folks in his ministry. And this particular account, I think, as I said, is unusual, but particularly instructive. He sent him away to his house, and he said, "Neither go into the town nor tell anyone in the town." Jesus doesn't, around the Sea of Galilee at this particular point, need a whole lot more publicity. He's being thronged by multitudes over and over again. People are following him in the wilderness, as we've already seen in this lesson, for 3 days without any food. So Jesus is wanting to demonstrate his miraculous powers, his divinity to people, and teach them, and focus on repentance in his teaching as he's been doing. But he doesn't particularly need large crowds of people thronging around him at this point, and perhaps that's the reason that he instructs this blind man, the man who had been blind, not to go into the town or tell it in the town.